Hey boys, it's me. Let's take a look at what I got. So this is more work on the scene control stuff I had, so I'll play out what the scene I've got and I'll show you it, and we'll have fun while we do it. How's that sound? Okay, so as usual I'm going to clear a file, start the file. I can no longer change this stuff as intended. He's got his own special name right there. I can random the other stuff and I'll begin. So we get a fade out, we go to the first text box, small pause, second text box. I expanded this text box a bit, so as it says, there's no limit to how many text prompts I can show here. I could even ask you a question. The yes and no options are missing, shading. Well, I haven't really revisited much dialogue stuff for a while, so a lot of it kind of looks out of place like this does. But if I go no, for instance, then it gives me my answer, as you'd expect. Technically, inside that prompt I could have a shop as well, which would be a bit strange for a cutscene, but it is doable if the event has a shop object attached to it. It's faded in. Here's the next text prompt. And when I hit it, you'll see our little hero from the top right starts running down, makes his way left, faces up, pauses a bit, flicks the switch, walks to where the gate opened. My hero's adjusted himself a bit. He's taken one step left, one step down. The hero is only the first non-story character, so that is character in slot 1 if you go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 as the slots. HenezRS here is slot 0, he's the hero. Yep, so he's opened the door, they face each other, we have another text prompt here. Go next. After a bit of a delay, he walks up, the camera adjusts itself. The camera movement's a little strange there. It kind of starts slow and then accelerates, but it should be positioning itself where the priest dude was standing and facing down. Now this is when the game becomes playable. You can see I've only got the two characters that were in the scene. If I hit escape, you can see them reflected here. Yeah, and that's that. So that's what the test sequence looks like now. This is still an object as it's always been, so I can interact with it. So let's take a look at how the script looks like now. So let's open this bad boy up, prison test. So still the same events as a create, which initialize a lot of information. You can see it's a lot more beefed up this time. We've got a few new types of information, so the stuff that's the same, this dialogue stuff was the same. I've just added more options here. You can see this little text progression here, and the scene constants up here are the same. I've just added more, of course. These are all the steps in it, and the delay is the same. But what's new here is we have another smaller group of constants here called smooth, and that's meant to be scene move, and that's what handles the movements that happen. So for instance, the first one is this walk to switch. That happens in the scene walk to switch, which is after that third text prompt that comes up, and that has the movements here. Our hero HenezRS stands just outside of the camera's view to the top right, and when this triggers, he starts walking down. He takes 12 steps down, 9 steps left, and that finishes the set of movements. And this also determines which way he'll be facing at the end. So him facing the switch at the end is part of this event, and then the same logic follows for these. These movements are much more simple, one left, one down. So, and they're basically just stored as gigantic arrays of the moves, because we need the direction they're moving in each time and how many repetitions that move has. And that's all the information really associated to it. Technically, I could assign an actor that's going to experience that movement here, but I don't actually do that. And the reason is because the first scene that triggers sets up a lot of properties of the scene, because the screen is still faded out, right? So I position the actors, I position the hero HenezRS in the top right of the screen. I disable a lot of the players, right? I'm disabling all of them but our first two slots. I then switch those slots because the player focus is still that first character, which was the priest, the first non-story one, because I don't want the camera following the player. So I switched those indexes, and that was actually what was causing me a bit of trouble, because, well, it's not really trouble, it's more like, I don't know, I didn't want to have to be forced to predefine all of the actors that move. Sometimes I want to repeat the movements for multiple actors if I move the party, for instance. So I haven't forced myself to do that yet. But yeah, you can see a lot happens here in this first frame. Some other stuff, The only extra new one is this camera scene tracking, which when we're in kind of the scene mode and the camera's not focused, not automatically snapping to where the player is, I want it to start on the first party member, player slot 0, which is player slot 1 until I do the switch. So it's a little confusing there. Anyway, this just positions everything, and then this progresses as we did before. A lot of it hasn't changed. There are some handling the movements done in here, and then within here there's quite a lot that goes on. Not there, that just sets it up, but like there's quite a lot of thinking, so I've refactored that a little bit. And there's some more scene controls as well, such as, well, a lot of this functionality was already in the game, right? I've just allowed it to be adapted within the context of a scene. So for instance, you could already face the switch or a save point or a heal point, and that kind of, those interactable objects, you could face them, hit E, and you'd activate them, right? So that functionality was already in. I just wanted to allow that to be a part of scenes that play out like this. When Hyraelian faces the switch and activates it, he's actually activating it just like a player would. He does an interact check, just one tile above his position. So technically, if I wanted to repeat this like 8 times, he could open and close the gate really fast or do whatever he wants. But so far I've kept this system very open to utilize all of the other systems, such as dialogue and stuff and movement. You know, that's stuff that we don't really want to redefine how we do that. We've already got controls for when the player does that stuff manually. We just need to take one step back and allow our script to basically input the commands a player would. Some other stuff, I added some camera controls, of course. So there was 2 instances when the player goes left and then down a little bit, the camera pans with him. No, the camera is attached to him at that point. Sorry. So the camera is tracking that player at the start. So that first movement he does left and down, the camera's on him, just like it would be if we were walking in the overworld. But then when I start this camera move to, I'm telling the camera to detach itself from that actor, and then I give it a manual move where over a second divided by 1.5, whatever time that is, it's like 70% of a second, 0.66 of a second, it pans down to where Hyraelian is, which is a few squares down. That's the first pan, and then later on I do another pan back up. But when that one happens, there's a little funkiness, but that's because the first camera move is its own scene, so the game pauses right here based on the delay I give it until it's done that movement, because every scene to progress to the next scene, it needs to satisfy some conditions. So for the camera move scene, the next one won't trigger until the camera has reached its goal. But that doesn't have to happen. For instance, in one of the last scenes, he walked to player where Hyraelian walks up, combines himself with the player. The camera move is independent, so that's not what stalls the scene out. What stalls it out is when the movement sequence is done, that last one. And then when I've completed all of that, I swap the indexes again, so that Hyraelian, sorry, he was Aurelian for a long time, but now he's Hyraelian, they swap position. So that's basically an expansion of the controls I've done. It took quite a lot of work because I want to be careful with this stuff. I need to do another pass in making it more, before I start, making scenes, I want to make it as simple and as readable as I can, and which I have done quite a bit. When I first wrote this out, especially with the smooth stuff, this was very full of crap. If I'm going to copy and paste this system all around, I want to reduce the copying and the pasting as much as I can. A lot like I attempted to do with the command system, but I think working on that first has helped me structure this better, and has given me an idea of the tedious things that might come up. So I think I'm quite happy with it so far. I rambled on a bit there, but it's all good. I guess I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.